Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ESOC Autumn Championships for 2016. This is a best-of-3 series for the round of 128 between Lemmings121 and the man, the Myth25, the legend. He has arrived. That was what was keeping us waiting, as well as both the players actually not having the maps ready. But we are ready to start. Looks like everyone has green in except for me. Our first match will be India vs Dutch on Bengal. Now, this is the ordinary Dutch versus what I think is, or when it first came out, was prefaced the Western Dutch, or the Eastern Dutch, rather. Sorry, getting my East and Wests muddled up again in true interjection style. And that is because Dutch obviously trains coin with its villagers. Everyone knows what I'm trying to say. And India, of course, trains coin with its wood. Trains villagers with wood. Yes, so I thought that was an interesting point to start on. Of course, both players, their villages do not cost food. They cost different resources. Let's start with Lemmings121. Here he is. Let's just check that the overlay is gone. Yes, it is. But Zuta cannot be heard. Now he can. So sadly, Zuta, all of the laughs you just made to my blunders were not heard. But you can now be heard, so thankfully I did check. I've got the hang of checking for overlays and things like that. But yes, Lemmings, here he is in the right-hand side of the map, in the colour green, playing as indeed India, spawning with lots of wood crates, of course, to train the villagers that we did mention cost wood, and has his 2 elephants as well. Control Shift F. They will be scouting the map, and any moment now coming across a cow. There's one. Cow gonna go. Does pick up that water buffalo. Not quite close enough. Perhaps he'll have to go back and grab that. There he does. He goes back to grab that particular buffalo there, and we'll be picking that up. Has come across 80 coin, a wounded tiger, 50 coin. And we'll see if he decides to pick any of those up. 90 wood, I think that is where the contention will be. But our Dutch player, I wonder if he's seen that as well. I think he's going to come across it as Explorer very, very close by. Does find 50 wood as well. Perhaps he'll crack shot the tiger. But let's introduce him first. Here he is in the left-hand side. Myth25. What can you tell us about these two players in Zuta?
So I was just doing a little bit of research briefly before this game started. Looked like Myth25 is in Garja's old clan, Italian team player clan. So I expect, based on the fact that he's looking like a decayed PR25, at some point he was a somewhat respectable player, just given his lineage in his clan history and the nature of his rating at the start of the match. So we'll see what he ends up bringing to the table. And Lemmings looking like a pretty strong Major-ish type player himself. So I think a couple of pretty decent players here. Going to see what they have to bring to the table. But like you mentioned, another non-TP map to start it off, and 2 civilizations that certainly work very well on non-trading post maps. The Dutch and the Indian civilizations have good mechanisms for booming that do not require them to use the trading posts that some of the more standard Western nations do have. Your Frenches, your Germanys, stuff like that. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. And one thing I do really want to point out here, Myth early in the game, very nice control of his elephants right underneath the town center, has done a very good job. Sometimes those can be a little difficult to corral just due to the fact that they have 50.
Here we go, though, Zuta. Another good control of the elephants. Lemmings, his explorer elephants, do pick up the 90 wood there. Myth coming in to pick it up, but is a bit too late. 90 wood does go to Lemmings, and as you said, 2 civilizations that do very well on maps without the trading post, which is probably why we're seeing them here. Dutch, certainly stronger than it used to be. India, always been pretty good. But 90 wood is going to give Lemmings the edge here. Apparently the score is 1-1, but it's not. I'll reset that to 0-0. 90 wood does go to the Indian player, and he is going to be really, really pleased with that. Going to be able to get his next villager in queue very, very soon, of course. Actually almost has all of the resources he needs to click up to the next age. Villager coming into position to drop down an aggro fort by the looks of it. Is he going to find a place to put it in time before he gets the 800 food? The answer is no. He's gone over that food count. Looking for a spot to put down the aggro fort. It's so tough. There's nowhere on Bengal to put anything. Has found a position, but look how far away that is from anything that's relevant. That's really far away. Of course, every time I see this particular map being covered on this channel, people mention this big, long thing down this thing of the map. I was tempted to say penis, but I did not. But it is there, and that's where you really want to be controlling. That's where it really emphasizes that particular portion and control of that portion of the map there, to have access to all of the hunts below and really the rest of the map. This aggro fort, very far away from anything. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't like it, honestly. I mean, to be perfectly fair, I think this is a good opportunity to India to utilize one of the other two good wonders that they have in transition to the Second Age. Those two wonders being Karni Mata and the Tower of Victory. I think either of those two wonders and the extra resources they present would allow you to put down like a barracks somewhere. I mean, obviously not right there, but somewhere in this location to help you secure that portion of the map, which is much more important early in the game than this is going to be. Now, this does serve some protection down here. It covers, an additional, it looks like 2 coin mines, a couple hunts, stuff like that. But India doesn't eat through those natural resources nearly as quickly as some of the other civilizations, and as a result, it makes for a kind of awkward aggro forward. He's not going to have a really good position to put any sort of pressure on his opponent whatsoever, and it makes it a little awkward in that regard as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening.
We will. So that has happened. Aggro Fort does go down and will be up pretty soon, but the Dutch player has aged up with, of course, the Quartermaster, as we would be expecting. 400 wood, and that, by the looks of it, has funded houses and is stable. Built one bank during transition. There comes the second one. It is a shipment, and we'll be arriving that. Different from the Dutch builders that we saw last game, but of course, this is not a Dutch mirror that we saw last game. Hopefully, people watching this have seen the last games. If you're watching this as a VOD, it might be a bit disorganized, something like that. But bank does come down, and yes, a stable as well. So not going to be investing so much in early economy here. I'm taking a look at the units in queue. Does have 3 hussars, and those are going to be used for raiding, presumably. Going to do some damage. Going to keep this India player a little bit raided. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be good, useful? I mean, he's got 6 Sepoy in queue right now, and there they are.
Yeah, it is going to be good, though, because look at how split he is, right? I mean, his Sepoy are coming in from the 6 o'clock position of his base and are a little bit disjoint. Perhaps he's just going to be trying to put on some pressure with these Sepoy to start with, but that's going to leave plenty of opening for the Hussar to get in some decent raids. If you take a look at the villagers, a lot of exposed villagers over here on wood, even the villagers on the back wood and the back coin mine are fairly susceptible to raiding pressure as well. So
here comes the cavalry, though. Is he going to take any vills? No. All of them going into the town center. Saw that in his line of sight. Quickly responded to it. Got them inside. Cavalry going to move past the stable. Do get onto one villager there. There comes some sentries. Of course, they do have multipliers versus the cavalry there. Is he going to just take them on straight up? I've seen people doing that versus Asian Minutemen, but here, he's going to get out of there. Does take out one villager, though, so not all for loss. Does take out a villager here, does green with his villagers. Minutemen, European ones, it's called 2 villagers going down there at the expense of what I believe is 1.5, nearly 2 Sepoy there, just being killed to the fire at the end there. Looks like the cavalry now coming back in. Are they going to sneak past those sentries? No, they're going to get retreating again. So, raiding simultaneously happening on both sides of the map there, and I think green coming off in a bit better overall.
Yeah, I mean he got a little bit more pressure done as well.
Yep.
The next thing to be watching here is to be what's his next card going to be. My guess is diplomatic intrigue going to be coming. We can see the consulate coming down, and green is just going to be playing all out aggression. 5 sepoys is his first card. He's just going to continue to ramp up the pressure. And the interesting thing to note is whether or not the Dutch player will be able to get out any number of skirmishers. He's probably going to need at least 10 skirmishers, 2 full batches, out to be able to deal with this, because the next batches of units that are going to be coming are going to be very, very strong. Oh, interesting. He's actually opted for the Ottoman consulate. I was fully expecting him to go British and just run more sepoys and more musketeers down his throat, especially given the fact that there's an exposed stable and a stable start in general to begin with. Would be pretty easy just to overwhelm your opponent before he was able to get out any sort of ranged mass. Looks like he's going to opt instead for the extra hussar that the Ottoman consulate is going to give, and try his luck with that instead.
Here comes the Sepoy, though. They are in the line of sight, presumably, of the red player. Skirmishers coming forward, of course. Only 4 of them. Not a huge number, but certainly do have that range advantage. And are going to pick out a couple of Sepoy. Is he going to do that, though? No, it does not look like he is by the looks of it there. We do see the cavalry, the Ottoman gardeners. They have arrived, as Zuta was mentioning, plus 2 more Sepoy, 3 more Sepoy actually as well. So quite the army here. He's going to need something to deal with the skirmishers. Not very many of them at the moment, though. Another batch does arrive. 8 pikemen is sent, though. So what do you think of that? And they're not particularly doing much here. There isn't, I mean, obviously there's those gardener hussars, but outside of that, it's a whole shipment that he's invested staying colonial, right? Yeah. And Dutch really wants to get up to the next stage, but that's not what he's doing. India keeping him in the second age, and of course India has access to Gurkha and to the sort of Dragoon style unit as well. So this is longer this goes, I feel like this is India favored, right?
I mean, it probably is. I think it's still India favored for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Assuming he makes some.
It does take out one villager. Can he take out some more is the question. Is only going to pick up one by the looks of it. But Belled up there, and all of his units on the other side of the map. Gardeners are coming in, but they are up against the... No, not up against the pikemen. They're taking out villagers by the looks of it. Sorry, you were saying this is...
This is still going to be a very hard push to hold. There's still not a ton of skirmishers on. It looks like there's about 12 skirmishers total. Yeah. And now with the Force Hours and the Hussars, more skirmishers coming in from the back, but they're kind of split off. So player are going to be able to walk up and just like give him hand combat. Decent control by the red pikemen, able to keep them on top of cavalry units, able to eliminate most of those, and coming back in with the Hussars now as well. Should be able to clean up most of this army. I feel like most of the skirmishers remaining. A lot of sepoy left. Hard countered by the skirmishers.
Yeah, those cav do go down though, and underneath the town center, we'll be seeing another batch of skirmishes pretty soon, I think. Is in range of the skirms. The skirms need to get back there before they can do any more damage. Whilst he's walking back, he's going to be taking damage from that town center. Does he have any reinforcing units? The answer is no. He is close enough to deal a lot of damage to these skirmishes. That's exactly what he wants. Can he get that elephant in range though? If he can slow them down with the snare, that's going to be really strong for him. It looks like he's going to be able to clean these up.
Yeah, he should be able to clean it up, but I think there's going to still be enough skirmishers reinforcing. There's the 700 food on the floor that you can gather up and use that, combined with the 2 banks, to continue to trickle out a decent number of skirmishers. So not a lost cause in his base, and truth be told, has pushed back the India player quite well. We have to remember, India is on a pretty low econ build. Despite the fact that he is Ottoman consulate, he has spent a lot of his export on military units and has sent shipments exclusively other than that, right? 5 sepoy Force Hours. So India is not going to be having, a super strong economy. Dutch has been weakened, certainly hasn't gotten nearly as many upgrades as he would like, hasn't gotten nearly as many banks as he would like, but the longer the game goes, he does still have that economic potential, and we'll see whether or not he's able to do it. But
10 tiger claws.
Here come the tiger claws.
Yeah, those things very, very strong against heavy infantry, or just infantry generally. Not very good against heavy infantry, rather. That's what they're weak. Well, they do worse damage against. Definitely going to be really strong against those skirmishes is the point that we're making here. Very strong against that unit there. Effectively filling in as cavalry here, and with enough sepoy backing this up as well. We do see that is a lot of exposed villages. In comes the Hussars. Yeah. That's not too good. Equally, though,
at the same time,
he's able to take a few villages on here. To be fair, though, he wants to clean up these skirmishes first, and I think, before he moves on to the villages. But that's going. I think either way, he's very, very happy here. Is still losing all of those villages, though. Perhaps tunnel vision, and if those Hussars can clean up all those villages, then. But even then, I think there's still a lot of green.
Still has to not die, right?
Yeah.
Like he has to not just lose his town center to the remaining sepoy and tiger claw siege, which may still be.
Wow, all those villages going down. That is absolutely brutal. Just now realizing, and that one there, I think, is going to be cleaned up as well. Green now taking out that Rax, and once that goes down, we're going to see no more reinforcing skirmishes. The stable is still up, but neither building is being utilized. And if we take a look at Red's resources that he has available to him, no food, no gold, no wood, and no one gathering either, except for the banks. I think Green, despite that huge villager loss, is in a good spot here. But banks are working away still, and if he can clean up this army, the economy is kind of favored to him, given that he has bank. Well, actually, no, it's got Interjection's calculator on anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's fairly even economically. They both took some pretty big damage, but still, if he can clean up the rest of these sepoy, he's got a decent number of calves still left alive. Can clean up the Gurkhas quite nicely, and it'll probably almost reset to back to about the 5-minute mark, where both players are about on even footings with fairly poor economies. But for the time being, Red's actually got a significant military presence still on the map.
Yeah, the question is, can he use that to slow down this green player? Does have the Agra Fort, which is good at this point. He's needing that to garrison in, if anything else. You can put villages in there. Yeah, you can.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's gonna... But that's not where he's heading. He's heading up towards here, perhaps go back to that hunt, and maybe that coin mine as well. Of course, you can see there are no villages on there. He's going to take a look at the coin mine, sees no villages, and then move onwards down towards the town centre. Perhaps he'll raid the berry bushes there. Yeah.
At least going to push his opponent back off it a little bit, bail him up for a little bit more time. Ooh, actually picks up a villager as well.
Yeah,
so
nicely done.
nice little win there.
And now going to move down towards that other coin mine, sees no villages, and then the hunts as well, I suppose, all the trees.
Yeah. You can tell that the green player is just absolutely terrified of leaving his base as well. So despite the fact that the economic unit populations are fairly even, green has been spending a lot of time with his villagers built up and gathering on berries, which is obviously not
ideal.
Yeah, not ideal whatsoever.
Splash.
Versus the red player, who is continuing to be able to gather on hunts, has his banks. He's over here on this coin mine. He's just gathering away. Making good use of the villagers that he does now. So even though the economic unit populations are fairly close, Red has actually been putting his economic potential to use much more than the green player has at this point in the game.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can think to add is that the cavalry here, they've been running around, they have been trying to kill villagers, but they've only, they have picked up one, which is good, and built up a few, but really not a lot is happening in terms of, like, pressure. I mean, it's not like anything's really immediately threatened by this cavalry, or except for those villagers. But this is where they're going to pay off. This is where that military presence is really, really going to work out, denying that hunt, and maybe he can pick up a few villages as well. I wonder if he ought to split his cavalry into two groups and raid perhaps two separate sides. But right now, economic unit population's pretty even, right? And not a lot is happening in terms of, like, military. So it's a case of figuring out what to do.
Yeah, and both sides, I think, here are a little confused on what to do. I don't think either side really knows what they want to do or how they're going to progress from here. Red, at least, it has been making proactive plays around the map. Like you mentioned, I would like to see him split up his cav a little bit. For instance, if he could find this location, right, if he could somehow gain knowledge that his opponent is gathering down there, those are, 4 pretty dead villagers if you were just to scout around the edges of the map. But for the time being, Zam's coming out here as well now for the Indian player, going to be able to help shut down some of that cav raiding, and it's still not a ton of skirmishers. That's kind of been one of the overarching themes of this whole game, is the skirmisher count trying to get up to be a number where it's actually problematic for the green player, and still not to that point just yet, only 7 skirmishers out. Both sides continuing to improve their compositions, though, realistically speaking. It looks like we do have a couple Sours joining into the mix for Lemmings, and that's going to help improve his composition. Also, a couple Pikemen have been trained for Myth25 as well. So both sides continuing to improve their compositions, which I feel like is going to continue to work into the Dutch's favor. Assuming he can control his units well, his composition is looking a little bit better at the time.
Yeah, I am taking a look at the text complete as well, and by the looks of it, the Dutch player only has hunting dogs complete, whereas Imperial Bureaucracy and assumedly, if we take a look through, all of the other market text done for the India player as well. So despite the score difference here, it's certainly being in favor of Dutch at the moment, I do think green player definitely on the rise, given that. How many villages does he have? Do we have access to that? Aside from the economic, actually we do. We can go over to economic units, and we see that he has
30 villagers basically.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was looking at 4 settlers. I was like, that can't be right. Oh yeah, there's the 26 Indian villager number there as well. So yeah, what? Oh, we do have a fight. What's going on here?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a fight here. Pretty poor positioning, actually, for the skirmishers. Split off a little bit to the side. The Sepoy are able to get up kind of into the face of the Hussar. The Hussar count here in this actual fight, not really doing all that much, because if you take a look at Lemmings' composition, it's almost strictly anti-cavalry units for the time being. So the Hussar don't actually play that much of a role. And as he begins to not raid with them, we can see that, the Hussar count just really isn't that beneficial to him. He either needs to continue to split off a couple of them to be able to continue to raid, or else he's got to use them to body block and force a good engagement and give his skirmishers some time to actually drop down the DPS on all the anti-cavalry units. Wasteful a little bit of his Hussar there, but at the same time, still not in any danger of dying. And as this game continues to progress forward, I think, the Dutch player, if he can continue to get some more banks, he does need to get some more economy going, because he still is just sitting on the 2 banks.
He hasn't invested in banks since that early portion of the game, that one in transition and that first bank wagon. The score difference is now exactly the same, so India definitely catching up here. And these skirms, by the looks of it, I'm not sure if this is intentional from Lemmings, but it's kind of luring these skirms out across the map, right? There are hussars there as well, which can be used defensively. But is he pulling him back towards his base, away from home, out in the open?
Yeah, I mean, that's what he wants ideally, right? He wants to be able to get his Sawars in a position where they can get a nice surround on the skirmishers. Myth smartly not taking the bait, not going too far out of his base. The one thing that does concern me, if you take a look at Myth's shipments that he has sent 700 wood and 600 wood. And with all of that wood that he has sent, he's built 2 barracks and 2 banks, which is, I mean, it feels like something's missing for me, right? Like it feels like he should have way more economic unit potential right now, but he just doesn't.
It's been squandered perhaps on things that you didn't need, like maybe those pikemen and, as you mentioned, not building the banks, perhaps building houses with them, which is needed, but yeah, it certainly doesn't have, you know, what Dutch really wants. All 5 of those banks working away for him. He does not have that, just the 2 there, and as a result is going to get behind it. The score is maintained. If he can start building those banks in now, I think he'll still be in a reasonable position, but 37 economic unit population, you can see green is creeping ahead here, and the military is fairly even, and if that continues, that spells, you know, green is going to have a victory overall. We'll have to see if he does decide to add them in. Certainly at this point, it's not going to hurt too much in terms of his, as it would earlier, in terms of unit population rate.
Yeah, and I mean, as the game continues to progress, right, like he's going to lose out on his chance to continue to, you know, be greedy and get those banks, because his villagers are being forced to start to gather out into awkward positions. And this is the time where the Agra Fort down here is actually really paying big dividends, right? It's helping control the map, helping give him a lot of.
Do we have an engagement? Skirmish is going to shoot the Sawar, but actually, obviously Sawar. Okay, it's the Zambaraks on the front, not too good. But here they do get a good engagement on the front there. There are a few trees in the way, sadly, but the skirms all in position. Can he get in? Not only a couple of the cavalry on the skirms. Actually, not really very many at all. I'm not sure if this is very good for the India player at all. All of his cavalry now fighting the Hussar, which is exactly what Red wants, since he doesn't have any anti-cavalry, really. Those Hussars being like anti-cavalry. How many cavalry does he have left? I can't really see. Not very many. I think he's absolutely fine here now. And now it's just skirmisher versus units that they counter, and there's the Gurkhas as well. Which is
that was a pretty good hold actually for Red. Now the one thing that he did lose is he did lose a lot of villagers in that engagement as well. I'm not sure if you noticed, but there was a bunch of villagers that were gathering on that food up there. And if you take a look at the economic unit population after that fight, I feel like Green's ability to rebound after that fight due to 2 facts. One, that he still has significantly better economic unit population, and 2, the fact that he still has really good map control. He's got much more vision out on the central portion of the map, and he's got much better infrastructure out on the south and central portion of the map. He's got 2 castles coming up. He's got the Agra Fort. He's just got the vision. He's got the mobility with the camels still alive, versus, you know, only the 5 Hussar for Myth. So I feel like Green's still in a pretty good position here.
Yeah, really.
Maybe a little sloppy with how he controlled the previous fight, but still gaining.
It was difficult to get his cavalry onto the skirmishes, which is what he wanted to. Maybe he ought to have not taken the fight, and as a result, you know, the positioning, the pathing around the trees was no good, and then the cavalry ended up fighting the opponent's hussars, which is exactly what Red wanted here. He's gonna have to do Red is gonna have to do something really if he wants to get back in. But we do see cavalry arriving on top of the skirmishers, and those with their times 1.5 multiplier just gonna rip through these skirmishers, leaving the villages exposed. The hussars not gonna be able to do anything there, and I think this is where we'll see the GG called. Decisive victory in this particular battle for Green. Just going to move the cavalry up towards the hussars. Yeah, no good.
He needed his hussar to be back home, or to be closer to be able to help deal with that.
And that's GG. So I think it was going that way anyway, but being caught out of position there and losing all his skirmishes definitely meant that he could no longer continue to play that one. First game does go to Lemmings, a nice long one, 23 minutes there.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, and it's a little bit sloppy from both sides, obviously. Myth still just hanging out on 2 banks at the end of the game. As a Dutch player, 23 minutes into the game, and you've only attempted to build 2 banks, I mean, it's not like he's built 5 banks and then he's lost a bunch of them or anything like that, right? He has attempted to build a total of 2 banks this game, which in a 23-minute Dutch game, like that's bad news bears. You're probably not going to ever win if you only attempt to make 2 banks. So a little bit sloppy there from him, but good job by Lemmings to continue to apply the pressure. He did a good job with his early push. Did some decent damage. Did a little bit of damage to some of the villagers. Killed 2 villagers very early on, which applies a lot of pressure to the Dutch economy. And then just was able to continue to keep it up. Had a couple good fights with the Tiger Claws, and just never really let up. Continued to secure the map in the central portion of the map. And eventually Red just kind of got choked out of resource locations, didn't have anywhere to gather. Was starting to run thin on coin mines especially. And then just got caught a little bit out of position trying to defend that southern coin mine from his base.
And that is that. Thank you very much for watching. This tournament is brought to you by ESO-community.net, and we'll be back with game number 2 in just a moment.
Cue the Mankill video.
No, we can't play the Mankill video. We'll play it later.
Alright, fine. Oh, man.
Alright, welcome back, everybody. This is game number 2. I pick first now, says Lemmings. So, by the looks of it, he gets to pick his civilization first, and then his opponent does afterwards. Is that how this tournament is going to work out?
I believe that is correct, yep.
That is definitely interesting. I wonder if we've reached a point in balance where that kind of picking civs is going to be fair. I do wonder. There's always going to be, if you see someone take a particular civ, you'll always be able to engineer yourself a particular matchup. But then you do have to take into account what maps are coming up and things like that. So there's always, and you can always have safe picks. You can always pick a certain civilization on a map that's not hard countered by really anything in particular. And given all the balance changes, maybe there isn't really too many hard counters. Either way, I do quite like this because it's reminiscent of SmackDown, but also it is going to produce more variety in terms of the civilizations being played. Less mirrors, although having said that, we do have an Ottoman mirror coming up. But, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 2 in this best of 3 series between Lemmings121 and Myth25 playing an Ottoman mirror. This is for the round of 128. The score is currently 1-0 in favor of Lemmings, who previously just won with India. Ottoman mirror, not something that you get to see particularly often nowadays.
Yeah, it's actually super rare nowadays, isn't it?
Used to be a thing that you'd see a lot more of. Well, Ottoman certainly would be a thing you used to see a lot more of. The PK clan tournaments, both 3 and 4, you would see a lot of Ottoman being played. Or actually, yeah, something like that. But then during ESOC, the first tournament, the spring tournament, I believe, Ottoman and Iroquois were disabled, so you didn't see very much of them there. And then the changes that were made to them left them very difficult to play competitively, perhaps. Certainly saw a lot less of them, and civilizations like Germany had their time in the sun, and China, among other things as well. But we do have an Ottoman. What do you think? What are the changes that have been made to Ottoman here, and why do you think they've been picked for this particular map? Certainly trading posts are available, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Ottoman's changes have been recently. And yeah, you know anything about this?
I don't know really if there have been any more changes to autos, but I do know, like you mentioned, this is a great trading post map, and if you're going to play an Ottoman game, you want to play it on a map that's chock full of trading posts. And this is a map that's got a very high number of sockets, and we'll see how that ends up turning out. Certainly, trading posts an absolute must-have for all Ottoman play, and I believe this is the only map in the map pool that does have a socket. I believe our last map of the day is Pampas Sierras if we get to a game number 3. So if you're an Ottoman player, if that's a civilization that you have in your back pocket, certainly if it's something you consider strong for yourself, you want to play it now. Now or never.
Look at that. I absolutely agree with you. By the 140 food going to Myth, he's going to be very pleased with that. Especially since his opponent, look at that, has slowed down to build a second trading post. That's going to delay his age up enormously. Especially since, he now has 140 extra food. And Ottoman's villagers train for free. It's not like he even has to wait for a villager to stop training. Or he's limited, like we saw earlier, to a 15 villager age up that he's going to do all of the time. And the food won't actually help him age up that much faster. Ottoman here, going to age, he's almost got double his opponent's food. What Lemmings has, though, is an extra trading post, and if he can get away with that, he's going to be so strong for that, what I assume will be a fast fortress agenda. Though, actually, Jan Abbas, that can be effective as well. I'm not actually sure what we're going to see from either player. My knowledge of the fast fortress and the Jan Abbas in the mirror was that they were actually fairly even. And your Abbas guns can take out the Falconets reasonably well, actually. But I'm really not sure what to expect. Maybe you can tell us more. But either way, Lemmings has 2 trading posts behind whatever it is he chooses to do. Here we have a treasure contention. Zuta, 80 wood up for grabs. Blue going for it, being double teamed by a big old bear, and of course the Explorer as well. I think Red in a better position to just sit down and pick that up. There's always those little points on the treasures, aren't there, that you can sort of actually pick a treasure up on. Who's going to get it? They both go down to 6. Wow. I really can't tell.
No, that was so close.
Red does get the treasure.
Was so close.
And has the extra XP to take out the blue Explorer as well. Absolutely disgusting, especially since he got the 140 food earlier. This guy is so far ahead in terms of resources. 140 food up, 80 wood up, and his opponent is effectively 200 wood down during this early portion of the game when that trading post is not really adding anything to this point, to whatever he's doing. And he's going to be up 45 XP and deny his opponent that ability to scout in that early portion there. Really, really big. And of course, you can see, look how much further ahead in terms of age. Is absolutely huge. But I assume now you want to answer my question or say something yourselves. Goodness gracious me.
Yeah, so going back to your original point of like what's the right play to do here, it used to be, and I think it probably still is, that fortress-oriented play is just absolutely better. When it comes right down to it, Ottomans don't actually have a great answer for Mamelukes themselves in the mirror, and so if you can get out Mamelukes and Spahi, do veteran Janissary shenanigans, there's really not a ton of good answers to that, even with Jan Abbas. Jan Abbas kind of falls short to Jan Mameluke, as strange as it seems. But, I mean, that's basically the composition.
You have to remember, though, right, that Mamelukes are only 4 on this patch, as opposed to 5. Do you think that will have any bearing on the particular, colonial versus fortress? Either way, it does look like that. Well, actually, having said that, there's a forward barracks coming out from the red player here. So actually, we may be seeing something in the colonial age there. Blue does send Silk Road as well, which makes sense given the trading post he's gone for. But 700 wood coming out, so this certainly is not going to be that Fortress Age style that we were mentioning, where you rush up to the Fortress Age and make veteran Janissaries and, of course, get the Mamelukes later on as well. I wonder if the 4 Mams has any bearing on that and is perhaps why they're not doing that. But 700, 2 different builds here, so 700 wood coming out, and by the looks of it, going to be playing that sort of Jan Abbas style. Yeah, the would be, wood from the 400 wood he got from aging up. By the looks of it, funded that Rax, and now adding in the Foundry later with that 700 wood as well. So going to be going for that Jan Abbas composition, and he's going to be tackling these trading posts. Remember, he's up much later than his opponent. Sorry, up earlier than his opponent. Sorry. And as a result of that, he's going to have lots and lots of extra time to destroy these trading posts and perhaps just completely nullify the Silk Road shipment, except for the fact that it's very good with the crates.
Myth is basically doing like 2012 style Ottoman. Like, he's doing old style robot patch Ottoman. Age 2 focused robot Ottoman. And quite honestly, like I don't know enough about Ottoman on the new patch to know how some of these new builds with the improved Silk Road and stuff like that stack up. What I can tell you is he's going to very easily deal with one of these trading posts, which makes the Silk Road, not as good.
Well, we say that, but they only work on, like, it doesn't work on the XP, I believe. It only works once it's upgraded to Stagecoach, and what it actually does affect is the crate shipments. But either way, it's going to be less effective, as you're mentioning, because he's not going to have as much XP to send those crates, which ultimately is where the Silk Road is going to benefit him, right? Here comes some Abyss guns, and the Janissaries that are there as well are going to take down this trading post. No resistance at all, no units coming out from blue, and that Silk Road, as you're mentioning, is going to be no good here, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be nearly as effective. And I feel like what this is going to come down to be perfectly fair, I think what it's going to come down to is like something random, like a 3 Hussar shipment, and who like sends 3 Hussar at the right time and gets them in the back line of the Abyss guns. Because both players going with more Age 2 Jan Abyss focused builds, and I think it's going to come down to like just some sort of wild card shipment in unit positioning, which, you know, very often mirrors do come down to unit positioning and card order and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Oh baby, picking up that 210 XP treasure as well. Why not if you're in the area? Going to be so much farther ahead in terms of shipment progression here. But you say all of that. You say that, you know, it comes down to build orders. It comes down to that 3 Hussar shipment and all the things you were mentioning, unit positioning. But I think Red's decisively ahead here. Look at the score. He's just taken out 2 trading posts. Yes, he might get this one down here. Almost certainly is going to get that one down there. But he doesn't have any Abyss guns out yet. Just the Janissaries. In fact, he's only just gotten his 5 Abyss guns out. And if you take a look at the military unit population, he's several units ahead. And is also, you know, he's going to get more, he's still trading units. Like, that disparity is not going to change, and he's effectively up a trading post. Here we go. Look, my first engagement here, loses a Jan. He's going to have to get back. Can the Abyss guns take out the Abyss guns? That's the question. He's not going to target them, perhaps a little bit out of range, but blue on the back foot does need to get out, and it does pick up a few units on the way out. Is now going to start sieging this house, Zuta. Red is piling on the pressure.
Yeah, and it comes down to the difference of the builds. I mean, if you look at the builds, one player stopped to ship Silk Road, and one player didn't. And the player who didn't has just been manufacturing an army off the back of his crates, and is applying pressure. Now, if things can continue to go on a little bit longer, and he can get the, you know, his more crates out, and if you can get to the point where, you know, both players have sent, say, 5 different shipments worth of crates, obviously, the Silk Road at that point is going to start to pay dividends, but in this very early portion of the game, 8-9 minutes in, it's still looking a little bit scary here for the blue player.
Yeah, that's right. And like now the Rax is being sieged as well. You mentioned one player sent Silk Road and the other didn't. Silk Road definitely very good, and if it's just too slow though, right? Like it's just not producing. He doesn't have the military units to deal with this pressure, and as a result, he's lost a house. He's just lost his barracks, and he was had to retreat from an engagement as well, and lost units doing that. So, and lost his trading posts as well. I think also what this comes down to is not just Silk Road, but the fact that his opponent managed to get up so much faster than he did. Red got up much faster to the next stage as a result of that 140 food. I hate to say it, but also perhaps more importantly, that 200 wood that he had to chop that for the second trading post that blue went for. So really, it's just a difference in age times as well, I suppose. What do you think of that?
Yeah, fun little interaction though here as well. Some decent micro by Lemmings has actually netted him like 4 or 5 unit kills here.
Yeah.
And if he continues to be good with his Abyss micro here, he could get to the position where he has the superior army, because he does have more Abyss gun as it stands right now, 15 versus 8.
Yeah, and his opponent sent 700 food as well, which is not a particularly good shipment. Investing that into Jans, which are, certainly, but, well, they're not very good against Abyss guns, right? His opponent's managed to get that 700 and 600 gold out, and he sent all those big shipments now. 3 Hussars do arrive as well for him. Can he get I wonder if that was the right thing to do. What do you think of the 3 Hussars there? Are they adding very much to this, or would you rather have gone with some other kind of shipment, which, bearing in mind, is going to give you, I believe, I'm not quite sure how much extra it is. We can find out, though.
Yeah, I think I would have preferred to see 600 wood here so he could start rebuilding his infrastructure. And what I would really like to see is, I mean, he's building another barracks here, but I would have liked to see him drop down a stable.
Oh, baby. Takes out this Rax.
Yeah, we do see that there is a red stable over here, and I like that transition. But at the same time, I would have liked to see blue start transitioning into more Hussar, because the 3 Hussar are okay themselves,
Yeah.
but the 3 Hussar are even better if they're like in addition to, you know, a 5 Hussar pop,
Yeah.
and then you've got 8 Hussar in like a really nice, well-balanced composition. Can make for
I think he's done it.
Very.
You're at like, yeah, Hussars. He's actually like, he's taken out the Rex, he's taken out the Foundry. He's going to be able to take out that trading post if he wants to, or perhaps he'll choose not to and push onwards towards his opponent's base. But he's managed to swing it around. All on the back of the micro that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it was those
And
little
perhaps
interactions. He picked off like 4 or 5 Avis guns, and that was absolutely huge because he didn't lose his own artillery foundry, and so he was able to continue to build Avis guns, build Avis guns, build Avis guns. And now look at the Avis gun differential. Because of the 5 or 6 Avis guns that he won for free, he's in a very sizable advantage in terms of Avis guns.
Here comes some cavalry as well. That's pretty big though, right? Like that's if that cavalry can get into position on top of the Avis guns, they're going to do some good damage. But it looks like they've been kited backwards, they've been kited through these trees, and they've just, you know, 1,000 resources just melting away. And Red is committed to this fight now, going to hand combat, trying to, you know, kill those Avis guns, which have a weak to range damage, and you know, melee damage is stronger by the looks of it. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
but
just decent control here by Lemmings. I think he's winning this game off the back of his Avis gun micro.
Yeah.
There it is. Myth resigns.
Yeah, and in this final fight there, those 3 cav or 5 cav, whatever it was from the Red, not able to get them into, you know, up close to the Abyss guns, whilst his Jans are involved as well, just managing to walk back through these trees, and as you mentioned, because of the Abyss gun disparity earlier here, just decisively wins this fight.
Yep. Really nice micro there by Lemmings. Or maybe not even micro, just good presence of mind to be mindful of where your Abyss guns are and just have them stepping forward and using their range and abusing your opponent's lack of control, if nothing else, more than micro. Because it's not like his micro was tremendously better in the actual fight, like when they were actually fighting. It's just he was controlling his units and picking off free units when he could, and building himself a sizable composition advantage during that process. And as a result, was able to swing it back in his favor, despite the fact that I think he had a weaker build. I do think that Myth's build earlier in the game was better, and Lemmings just ended up winning because his control was a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, can't argue with the results. 2-0 in favor of Lemmings, whatever build he's doing. And that does end the series. This was a best of 3. I believe it's 2-0. That's correct, isn't it?
Yep, that is correct. It's 2-0.
All right. Well, I think that ends that. There are some recorded games, Jim was telling me. Do you want to cast those? It's really hard to do.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Sorry, Jim. Sorry, rest of you guys. But that does end this stream. This tournament has been brought to you by ESO-community.net. This is the round of 128 for the Autumn Championships 2016. Lemmings does progress through to the round of 64. Myth25 is eliminated. My name has been Interjection, casting alongside
Zutazuta.
Thank you very much for watching again, and we'll see you all again next time.